Thanks for pressing play on this episode of Two and Out. I'm Travis Currah. Sheldon Jones is here, and Cliffy D is joining us from the Alouettes Flight Deck podcast. Cliffy, thanks for coming on to talk Owls football.
Oh, as always, thank you for having me. I always appreciate it.
Yeah, it's always good to talk Alouettes with you. The passion you bring is unmatched. You bring the heat when it comes to the Alouettes. But last year, 12-5-1, ended up losing in the East Final to the Argos. But that kind of mirrors what happened the year before, where the Argos go 16-2 and the Owls get rid of them in the East Final. It almost seems like the most successful team in the East is where you don't want to be.
There's something to be said for being number 2 in the East and having to play in the Eastern semifinal. You can host it, no problem.
Right.
But then you got to go on the road and face the number 1 team and beat them in their house. There is something about that, and it's incredible because you think back 2022, the Alouettes were a converted touchdown away from going to the Grey Cup. 2023, they go back to BMO Field, blow the doors off of the Argos, go to the Grey Cup and win it all. And then last year, the Alouettes decided to cosplay as the Argos of 2023 and play a game that was extremely similar to the Eastern Final of 2023, except a bit of role reversal, whereas the Argos could do no wrong and the Alouettes could just seemingly do no right, which is disappointing because, I mean, everybody showed up and showed out. I mean, the place was rocking. The stadium was just electric. And yeah, unfortunately, the Alouettes just had a bad day at the office at the worst possible time.
It's been a pretty exciting time to be an Alouettes football fan, obviously. The last few years, there's been some real continuity in the front office with the GM and the head coach. And, you know, some of the guys, they seemed like cast-offs from other teams. Jason Moss, like he wasn't popular in Saskatchewan when he left as OC. Cody Fajardo was a polarizing figure when he left Saskatchewan as well. Now, obviously, Fajardo is not in Montreal anymore, but there has to be something to be said about the continuity with Moss and Machocha in Montreal. Definitely.
And ever since Danny Machocha even came on board, and a lot of people were like thinking, okay, what kind of team is he going to build? Especially when you think back to his previous tenure in Edmonton, that didn't go quite so well, but I think he definitely learned his lessons of what not to do when you're in a general manager position and applied that here. And I give him full marks. It took a little convincing on my part because I wasn't sure just how the roadmap was going to look. And even I was looking at some of the moves he was making, like, are you serious? Really? I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, listen, if it works, fine. And lo and behold, it did end up working. And in 3 years, he built a Grey Cup winning team, which you got to give him full marks for that, which absolutely outstanding. And even bringing in Jason Moss, which a lot of people are like, okay, this guy wasn't good enough to be the OC in Saskatchewan, and you're going to let him run this football team? Good luck. And guess what? It worked. Bring in Cody Fajardo, as you said, the boy nobody loved out in Saskatchewan. They ran him out of town on a rail. Like, what's this clown going to do? Oh, what's he going to do? He's just going to explode offensively and just will this team on his back to a Grey Cup victory. I mean, that's just incredible. And just the legend now of pretty much everything Alouettes from the top down has just grown over the years. As you said, the pieces were in place, and a lot of the moves that were being made, we didn't quite understand them at the time, but everything has worked out so well. And look at what this team's been able to do with, by the way, the lowest payroll in the Canadian Football League in 2023, and you go win a Grey Cup. Lowest payroll in 2024, best CFL record. So, I mean, you can question some of the moves that Danny Machocha makes, but you cannot argue with the results.
I'll ask you quickly about Mark Weightman stepping down as the president of the Owls, and they're kind of spreading his duties among other management in the organization. Talk about the job he did and what things are kind of looking like going forward.
Yeah, unfortunately, I caught us all by surprise that Mark Weightman decided to step away from the Alouettes. I'm sure there's reasons behind it, which perhaps one day we'll know about. Again, unfortunate because just absolutely wonderful president. I mean, and he had some, well, I can't say big shoes to fill as far as what Mario Cecchini did, in the sense that he was a president with the Alouettes in two previous instances and did very well in both of those. And this third term, I mean, look what it produced. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal. So for him to walk away from it definitely was a bit of a head scratcher, but moves have to be made sometimes, and as a result, they're not going ahead and hiring another president. Instead, what they're doing is basically taking his duties and splitting them between Danny Machocha, because he doesn't have enough to do apparently, and Rene Masson, who is also a big player behind the scenes in the Alouettes administration. So they're kind of co-president, for lack of a better term, but essentially it's just a slight modification to their respective titles, and they'll basically be handling all the presidential duties, which will be interesting for us on the Alouettes flight deck, because for the past couple of years we've always had the president and CEO
Yeah.
on to have a little fireside chat, talk about the year that was, and now this year's like, okay, does this mean we invite Danny on? Do we invite Rene Masson on? Do we invite them both on? I mean, we could, I guess, but
Yeah.
who's going to step up to the mantle and assume that role? Because I mean, we got traditions, and we're big on tradition at the
Yeah.
Alouettes flight deck. So I guess we'll see what happens. But it definitely has made things a little interesting. But I mean, as far as the organization itself goes, when it comes to this, it's just all systems go. This truck keeps on rolling. That's how you got to look at it.
Absolutely. So we mentioned Fajardo. He's no longer there. He's in Edmonton, backing up Trey Ford. Let's talk about Davis Alexander, who had some time covering, stepping in for Cody when he got hurt last year. And then also they do have the veteran McLeod Bethel Thompson as his backup. So how's Davis looking in camp, and what kind of leash are we expecting him to have this year?
Well, for the Alouettes to basically take the guy that won them their last Grey Cup and show him the door,
Yeah.
that tells you what kind of confidence they have in Davis Alexander. And let's not forget, Danny Machocha found Davis Alexander, put him on the negotiation list, brought him into camp, and basically let him marinate in the slow cooker. Give him the time to learn how to be a quarterback in a professional environment. He had a chance to learn from guys like Vernon Adams Jr., Trevor Harris, Cody Fajardo, and so on. There's a lot of great teachers. And let's not forget, his quarterback coach is arguably the greatest quarterback that's ever played in this league, Anthony Calvillo.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about the learning tree that Davis Alexander has had the opportunity to sit under and gain the knowledge from. Like, wow, how can you not be successful at that rate? But credit to Davis. I mean, from day one that we saw him in 2022 at training camp, you knew there was something there. There was something special about this kid. I mean, just the rocket arm that he had, his awareness, his mobility, the way he was able to read the field. We thought, okay, when this guy gets some experience, gets some honest goodness reps, when he gets a real opportunity to showcase what he can do, he's going to do some damage. And sure enough, it took a little longer than expected. And there were a lot of times when the Alouettes quarterback would go down and we're like, okay, it's Davis Alexander time. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Trust me. Like, it's worth the wait. And I guess that was the kind of thing. It was kind of tough for us because we know what this guy can do, and you're not letting him do it. But everything happens for a reason. And this past season, when Cody Fajardo got hurt, okay, Davis Alexander time. Nope, we're gonna put Caleb Evans in because he does have CFL experience. Okay, and then unfortunately Caleb, who is a great quarterback, but at the same time not quite able to command the huddle the way that Cody Fajardo did, or what Davis Alexander, as we were able to see, is able to do. I mean, his short yardage know-how and wherewithal, second to none as far as I'm concerned. But when it comes to actually running the offense, it just wasn't there. At least certainly not in those instances last year. But when Davis Alexander stepped behind center in that game against Saskatchewan, the mood shifted immediately, and everybody at Percival Molson Stadium stood up and took notice. Like, oh my God, who is this guy? What? Oh, what? Huh?
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but laugh. I was just like, I've been telling you, don't sleep on this guy. You just give him a chance. He's going to do something special. And sure enough, he played some absolutely phenomenal football, to the point where the later part of the season, when the Alouettes had Fajardo back from injury, and it felt like they were coasting, to tell you the truth. Like, they'd already sewn up the division. in September. So it's like, okay, how do you handle this now? Like, do you want to rest your starters? Do you want to, like, do they really have anything to play for? And a lot of it was just, okay, how do we give this guy some reps? So I mean, yes, he did another start. He won that game, obviously, but even towards the end, like especially when Fajardo was not quite firing on all cylinders, a lot of times we're sitting like, okay, you've got Davis Alexander. He's proven he can drive the car. Why wouldn't you give him the keys and let him do his thing? And once again, for whatever reason, it just didn't materialize. And I can't help but wonder, and I'm sure Davis must be wondering too, why didn't you put him into the Eastern Final game at any point? It just what I understand you got to get behind your quarterback, and at that time, it was Cody Fajardo's team. It was his game to win or lose. But at the same time, if something wasn't working, that just what you have in Davis Alexander. Why wouldn't you give him that opportunity? And just watching his body language, Alexander, throughout the game, like you could tell he was vibing. He was wanting to get in there. He's like, you put me in this game, I'm going to win this effing match. And it just never materialized. And I think that had to play a big factor in the offseason decision to essentially go with Davis as opposed to, trying to find a way to keep both quarterbacks happy, because Fajardo wanted to retire as an Alouette. And he made it clear, like, this is my football team. I want to stay here. I want to be a part of this. I want to help bring this team another Grey Cup and so on. But you got Davis Alexander, who's raring to go. He's proven that he can handle himself 100%. And if you're not going to sign him, you're not going to extend him and pay him what he's worth, there's 8 other teams that will gladly take him on and give him what he wants. So Danny Machocha had to make the tough decision, and I'm sure it shocked and even saddened a lot of Alouettes fans to see Fajardo, who helped this team win a Grey Cup, end up being shipped off to Edmonton. And all I can say is, well, as tough as it is to lose Fajardo, I promise you, Davis Alexander will not lead this team down a bad path. He will be the man. He has proven that he can do this job, and everything I've seen in camp thus far, in his off-season workouts, everything that I've seen with him, and even speaking with him on a number of occasions from the end of last season to today even, he is more than ready. He is primed. He is 100% ready to lead this team and be the man here in Montreal. And quite frankly, I cannot wait.
Now, it's kind of weird. I think I brought this up in the Toronto preview. The last 3 starting quarterbacks of the winning Grey Cup teams are backups. Nick Arbuckle, McLeod Bethel-Thompson, and Cody Fajardo. But it's the old Wally Buono thing, right? Maybe you let a guy go... you try to time the time when you let a guy go, and we know that Cody Fajardo has mileage on the hamstrings, and he's been sacked a lot in his career dating back to his time in Saskatchewan. And Davis Alexander, despite being with the Alouettes since 2022, he's only 26. And was he undefeated as a starter last year, 5-0 or something like that?
Yes, he was.
And it's very rare in the CFL. Like you said, he's been marinating in the slow cooker for these many years. Now the short rib is tender. It's ready to be pulled apart and put on a nice, beautiful plate of rigatoni. You can tell where my mind is recording this.
I was going to say, I'm guessing you haven't had dinner yet either.
I haven't. But I'm excited to see Davis Alexander get after it this year. I do want to talk about the running backs. Last year, I think what Walter Fletcher did kind of overlooked by the rest of the CFL simply because he wasn't a 1,000-yard rusher. He had about 764 yards, but he added almost that same amount in receiving. So he's a threat wherever he is in the backfield. Are you expecting another big season from him?
1,000%. Again, arguably the best two-way player in the Canadian Football League is Walter Fletcher. Is it whether he runs the rock or whether he catches it? You put the ball in his hands, and he's going to make magic happen. And I fully expect him to be able to replicate, if not add on to what he did last year. I think in this offense, the way it's looking right now, yeah, the receivers are definitely going to get a lot of love because Davis loves to sling the ball. But to know that he has an absolute stud in the backfield to hand off the ball if need be, And he'll get those yards too. Like once he hits the Jets, he is gone. Like he just knows how to motor. And also too, not afraid to lower his shoulder and knock a guy over if he needs to. Like that's just like Walter Fletcher plays this game with intensity, and he is just so good. I still can't believe Edmonton traded him to Montreal for a song practically. At like I'm not mad. Don't get me wrong. I'm very glad that Walter is RB1 for the Alouettes. I mean, he's proven that as tough as it was to let William Stanback go, and he again also to a huge fan favorite here in Montreal, and someone that again we were so happy that he was a part of that Grey Cup winning team. But at the same time, you got Fletch back there, and he's raring to go too. It was kind of a bit of a similar situation to the whole Cody Fajardo, Davis Alexander thing. It's like you've got a proven veteran that can get the job done, but at the same time, you've got this young stud kind of waiting in the wings, waiting to be, unleashed. And sometimes those tough decisions have to be made. So letting William Stanback go ultimately ended up being the best move for the Alouettes because it did give Walter Fletcher a chance to shine. And when I think of the other running backs on this team, Stevie Scott and Sean Thomas Erlington, those are two guys that also, too, I think are going to be extremely dangerous. You got Stevie Scott, who is quicker than a hiccup, great hands as well. Backing up Fletch would be absolutely outstanding. And then Sean Thomas Erlington proved last season when Fletcher was out due to injury, he can carry the rock and he can do amazing things as well. And he's also one of those downhill runners that just bowls people over and can turn on the Jets when needed. I mean, like, if it ends up being I think we're going to have another three-headed monster like we had when it was William Stanback, Walter Fletcher, and Joshua Antwi, except now it's going to be Fletcher, Scott, and Thomas Erlington.
So you quickly mentioned receivers, so let's go there too. We had some departures, Nate Bahar, Keon Julian Grant, Reggie White Jr., but you are getting Tyson Philpott back now. Hopefully, I assume he's good to go in training camp.
He's
good to go.
He's been on one. In fact, yesterday and today, he just had two phenomenal sessions, and even talking with him as well on Monday, and he's just chomping at the bit to get in a real football situation. As good as it is in training camp, I mean, you're going up against your teammates, and they're not going to go full bore against you. Like, he wants to get in some real honest to goodness action. You can tell he's jonesing to get onto a football field and play a meaningful game. And I tell you what, I mean, this receiving core right now, they've got some dudes on here. Like, there's some absolute studs. You got Cole Speaker, Tyler
I'm looking at the list, and there's going to be a significant receiver that's not going to be on the field. This is crazy. They had a lot of receiving injuries last year, but I'll rattle off Austin Mack, Rambo, Sneed, Speaker. Like, it's pretty crazy the depth they have at receiver.
Oh, yeah. And I truly would not be surprised if we see all four of those receivers, like those receivers that you mentioned, possibly with all of them getting 1,000 yards this year. It is not impossible to think that, especially with Davis Alexander and his love of, as I said, he loves to sling the ball, right? So, I mean, if he can find an open receiver, he's going for it. He's not going to dink and dunk his way down the field. He's going to grip it and rip it, quite frankly. And all those guys, I mean, if Montreal can get back to having 4,000-yard receivers, like in the days with Anthony Calvillo, throwing to guys like Ben Cahoon, Jermaine Copeland, Kerry Watkins, and so on, I mean, I tell you what, this offense has potential to be absolutely devastating.
Now, in the offseason, Kristian Matte ended up retiring, a long-time Alouette, winning the Grey Cup there in 2010 and 2023. But the O-line still has a lot of experience and a lot of depth there. So it does seem like the supporting cast around Davis Alexander is pretty well set up as compared to last year even.
Oh, definitely. I look at some of these guys, even losing Philippe Gagnon to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And between that and Kristian Matte calling it a career. A lot of people be like, "Oh my God, the Alouettes need to restock. They need to reload." I'm like, hold the phone here. There's some pretty talented linemen here. I mean, guys like Pierre-Olivier Lestage, you've got nothing to worry about there. Nick Callender, Jamar McGloster. I mean, the list goes on. And even this year, drafting Tiger Shanks in the first round. I mean, this young man too is he's not looked out of place amongst these guys, and I'm really excited to see what his development's going to be as he goes through training camp and possibly even getting a chance, maybe not to start necessarily for the Alouettes, but I mean, if he gets in the camp, at least gets on the practice roster, he'll have a chance to learn from a lot of these veterans. And I tell you what, Davis Alexander is going to have all kinds of time and space to do his thing. That much I won't say guarantee, but I wouldn't be surprised if all of a sudden Davis Alexander is able to, if he has to run, then he'll run. But I mean, he could actually just stand in the pocket and just find his receiver and just fire off a frozen rope.
No, I think for the past few years, I don't know if I'd be alone in this. The Alouettes had like the best linebacking core in the CFL with Stubblefield, Beverett, Sankey there, and now Stubblefield has left. But there's still, I know Stubblefield wasn't Canadian. Tyrell Richards is there. Jeffrey Canton-Arcou is there. He's 26. He can make plays. What are you expecting from the linebackers this year? Is there going to be a new face making some plays in 2025?
I definitely think you mentioned Jeffrey Canton-Arcou, and he had a very solid rookie season last year. And just from what I've seen in camp so far, my God, his football mind is unmatched as far as I'm concerned. Like they were going through drills yesterday or Monday, I should say, that his linebacking coach Greg Quick just was peppering him with all kinds of questions and just trying to trip him up, and he was just rattling things off like no problem, and to the point where even Greg Quick, who is not easy to impress, he was like, "Well done, congratulations," and not mockingly, like he was like,
right.
I think he was genuinely impressed with how much attention Jeffrey's been paying to the film, and I'm sure talking with his teammates and trying to learn as much as he can from guys like Tyrese Beverett and Darnell Sankey. So don't be surprised if you see Jeffrey Canton-Arcou as one of the starting linebackers in this core. And even if not, you got someone like Bryce Cosby, who basically stepped into that Reggie Stubblefield spot and did pretty phenomenal, to tell you the truth. So, I mean, there's no shortage of good linebackers in this. I will even go so far as to say the front seven for the Alouettes this year, I think, can be absolutely dangerous, like truly, truly dangerous. When you look at the defensive line and this linebacking core together, working together in tandem, whew, I would not want to be an opposing attack. I would not want to be an opposing quarterback or even an opposing offensive coordinator trying to scheme against, all of these guys. It is scary, scary good.
Yeah, sticking on defense, is there any other battles that you're noticing for any, contested starter spots maybe?
I had some initial concerns when it came to the secondary, in the sense that Lorenzo Burns came on late last year, and I'll be honest, he looked really out of place. And to the point where I'm just like, why is this guy even here? Like, I mean, is this really the best we can do? But once again, coming into camp, I don't know what it is about. It seems like every year the Alouettes have that one player, you're like, this one rookie that comes on and just doesn't look like he gets it, right? Like he looks like a fish out of water, and you're wondering what the hell's going on. What are they seeing in this guy that I'm not seeing? And then something happens, and this, like, the switch is flipped, and they get it, and they figure it out, and they become absolutely incredible. It happened to Adarius Pickett in 2021. Wesley Sutton in 2022, Kabian Ento in 2023. I mean, all of a sudden, like, these guys just go from looking absolutely terrible to looking absolutely phenomenal. And I have to say, it's still limited. And again, you're talking about going up against your teammates, but Lorenzo Burns, all of a sudden, he looks like he belongs. He does not look out of place. Like something must have happened. I don't know what his off-season regiment was like. Maybe it was changing his uniform number. Could be any number of things. But I mean, something had happened that all of a sudden, now I'm excited to see him get on the field, and I want to see what he can do, because I feel like his game all of a sudden has just did a complete 180. I hope so for his sake, because he came in with a lot of hype, and there's a really good pedigree to him. And it just for whatever reason last year, and maybe it's just because the Alouettes had so many injuries kind of going into the latter part of the season, and he was kind of thrown into the fire, which like the other guys were. They were just basically thrown in there to cover for an injured veteran, and it didn't work initially, but somehow it gets turned around. I have a feeling that Lorenzo Burns, he could be that guy. He could be that guy that suddenly becomes that incredible shutdown corner that everybody was expecting him to be when he signed with the Alouettes.
Man, I remember Ento was getting picked on by offenses for a while, and then he started turning those into interceptions. And now it seems like people around the league are avoiding KB and Ento. So, man, now that I've talked to you...
I'm certain that Zach Collaros still has nightmares about that KB and Ento pick in the end zone during the 2023 Gig Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
I think they game planned to pick on him. I think they did.
I think so, and I think they did. Maybe they didn't realize that he had that come to Jesus moment that turned his season around, and he just became a phenomenal football player. And I think he was probably excited about, oh, you want to test me? You want to try me? Okay. And look what happened. Like, I'm not saying that's the reason why the Alouettes won the Grey Cup in 2023, but I mean, you got to admit, like, that was a great way to take any sort of momentum that Winnipeg was building and just stop it right there and then.
I look at this roster, I talk to you, and man, I'm excited to watch this team get back onto the field. The only major change is at quarterback, and he was undefeated in several starts last year. So the Alouettes look to be in good shape heading into 2025. I asked you this before the show, and let's put it on the record because the Big O is being actually renovated right now. And the last Grey Cup that was played in Montreal with 2008. So we're closing in on 20 years. Could the Big O soon be ready to host Canada's Grand National Drunk?
Well, it's still a while to go. They are starting to do the renovations now. They are starting to make the change to put in a permanent roof at Olympic Stadium. But don't start planning your trips to Montreal just yet. If you're hoping for a Grey Cup in Montreal, you're still going to have to wait a little bit. I'm thinking at this point, if all goes well, provided there's no surprises or anything like that, I'm thinking maybe 2029, the Alouettes and the city of Montreal just may be hosting the Grey Cup at the Big O. Unfortunately, logistically, I just don't see it being feasible at Percival Molson Stadium. As amazing as it would be, it's just too small, and putting in temporary seating would be truly a logistical nightmare. I really do think if Montreal wants to host a Grey Cup, it's Big O or bust. Or Pierre-Carl Peldo is going to have to build his own football stadium. And once again, you're going to have to wait for that to be built. Yeah. and that. So ultimately, if you want a Grey Cup in Montreal, you're just going to have to wait for that roof to be permanently installed. And at this point, I'm thinking probably 2029 is when you can reasonably expect to see a Grey Cup in Montreal.
I'm going to need to start to get on the treadmill now to build up some goodwill with my doctor before a Montreal Grey Cup. I've been there before, and look, a Grey Cup there would be unreal. So much. Actually, when I was looking up restaurants to eat at, I almost just decided I can't. I'm just going to go to McDonald's because there's too much choice. So yes, I am hoping for a Grey Cup there, 100%. Cliffy D is the co-host of the Alouettes Flight Deck podcast with Tim Capper. Thanks for coming on the show to talk Alouettes football heading into 2025.
Well, once again, thank you for having me. Definitely appreciate it. And yes, everybody, please check out the Alouettes Flight Deck, alouettesflightdeck.ca. All your major podcast platforms, you'll find us there on YouTube as well. And also make sure to check out Flight Deck Live, our post-game show that we do after every game, win or lose. And we are so excited. It is our 10th season, our 10th broadcast season this year. Yes, indeed.
And didn't people have to talk you into doing it, Cliffy, if I can remember back 10 years?
Well, there's a bit of a groundswell, kind of like, okay, somebody's got to step up and do the Alouettes podcast. You know, we got podcasts in Ottawa, we got podcasts in Saskatchewan, you got podcasts in BC. So who's going to step up for Montreal? I'm looking around like, Well, I guess it's going to have to be me because I don't see anyone else jumping up. So, thank God I got Tim that comes along. I mean, he's a podcasting, a veteran of 20 plus years doing podcasts.
Wow.
So, I mean, it was the perfect. I couldn't ask for a better partner to do it with. And I mean, we've just been growing by leaps and bounds. And now, when I look back at what we've been able to accomplish in 10 seasons, like I'm blown away. And what gets me so excited and what keeps me going more than anything else is we've achieved a lot, but I still think we've got a lot to go. We still got a lot more to do. We still got a lot more stories to tell. We've got a lot more people to have on and get more people excited about the Alouettes via our podcast. So listen, we've done 10 seasons. We can easily do another 10 as far as I'm concerned.
That's what I like to hear, Cliffy. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
We're cruising through the 9 CFL teams as we get you ready for the 2025 CFL season. That is Team 7 of 9, the Montreal Alouettes with Cliffy D of the Alouettes Flight Deck podcast. You can catch previews of the other teams so far on YouTube. There's a playlist there. You can subscribe for future episodes as well, and you can check out Two and Out on any of your favorite podcatcher. For Sheldon Jones, I'm Travis Currah. We will talk to you soon on Two and Out.